Welcome, everybody. Adjusting my camera. It's good enough. Hold on. A little bit. I always do this. Good enough. Welcome, everybody. John Aravosis here. Let me get TikTok rolling thunder with other motorcycles. Hang on here. TikTok live. Oof, I look like I'm glowing today. I showered. I'm clean, just glowing. Hang on here. That's what happens when you moisturize. Hang on. Let me get TikTok rolling, guys, and then we'll get started here. All right. A football helmet. I haven't seen that before. That's kind of fun. I'm going to guess it. Does it put it on my head? I'm going to guess it doesn't. Let's see, just for fun, what the hood football helmet does. I'm going to think it does not go on my head. It's worth a try, but I'm going to guess it does not. Yeah. Let's try it anyway. I don't think it's going to, but we will try. All right, TikTok rolling. 1 second here. Here we go. Tiki-taki. Boom. 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 Welcome, everybody. Okay, TikTokers, YouTubers. Hey, guys. How's everybody doing today? I've had a little bit of coffee, so I'm better than I was yesterday. As you know, I was a little sleepy, although I was sleepy today, too. Anyway, lots of news today. Lots of Ukraine news. A little bit of election news, although some nasty stuff, but a lot of Ukraine news. Anyway, welcome, TikTokers. Welcome, Ash. Cool. Amy. Others. YouTubers. Who we got here? Christopher, of our subscribers. Christopher, Bjorn, Mike, Anne, Danielle, Jason, Christopher, James. Oh, and Cool just did a gift. Thank you for the heart. And thank you, Jen, as well, for the hearts. Amanda, Andre. Hey, guys. Hey, Corey. Hey, Chazak. Thank you for the gift. So how are we doing today? Actually, I'll even go up a little bit. Thank you, Martin. I'm going to adjust my camera a little bit so the gift shows. There we go. It was cutting off the gift at the top of the screen. There we go. Thank you, Kim. Hey, Jeff. So welcome, guys. We've got a decently busy show. I've got enough content. A lot of hey, Martin, a lot of Ukraine news today, actually. Some election news, not a ton, but some important election stuff, such as Donald Trump Jr. and RFK Jr. I just can't even. We're going to talk about it. I just can't. Thank you, John, for the gifts. Thank you, sweet. New iOS 18 update. I've not seen it yet, Jacob. Typically, I know we're supposed to wait for those things. Oh, thank you, Chazak. Cool gift. Thank you, Catherine. I know we're supposed to wait for those updates for the iPhone. Like they say to wait a week or something to make sure all the bugs are worked out, but I usually update anyway. Thank you, Vicky. Now, was that the AI stuff, which of course my phone being a 14 can't do? I'm trying to remember the newest iPhone update, whether it's anything we can benefit. What about what just happened to Lebanon? Yeah, that was pretty funky. Hey, Big Hawk. Not related to the news today, but pretty funky news. Thank you, Big Hawk. Thank you, Elizabeth. Whatever you think of Israel, damn. Thank you, T-Bone. The Israelis managed to blow up the pagers of Hezbollah terrorists all across Lebanon. Thank you, Tari. Thank you, Colonel Mustard. They just truly some James Bond stuff, as Delisle says. I haven't seen yet the stories on how they did it, whether they put plastic explosives inside, which I'm kind of thinking they must have. But the Israelis somehow managed to simultaneously blow up the pagers of Hezbollah terrorists across Lebanon simultaneously. The Hezbollah terrorists were using pagers because they thought it was safer, because the Israelis were tapping the phones and stuff, so they used pagers instead. So what did the Israelis do? They managed to blow up the page. Now, was it Semtech or whatever it's called, Keith? Or plastic explosives, plastique. They managed to blow these things up. They killed, I don't know if they killed like 9 of these guys. I didn't see what the total number was recently. 9 of these guys injured 2,800 people. The people injured, like scores of Hezbollah terrorists, scores of them. This was, now again, I haven't seen yet what the civilian casualties were, all of that, but this was some pretty wild, something lithium related where they superheated them. Well, the only thing is, Christopher's saying 4,000 injured, 11 dead. I thought I read they hacked it and did something, that it wasn't just plastic explosives. But I don't know that we know, and I don't know that the Israelis are going to tell us, right? Because Israel, I don't even know if Israel's taking credit for this. But I mean, guys, blowing up the pagers of terrorists simultaneously across an entire country, that is some, I'm sorry, but that is some, like, I am not worthy kind of behavior. Damn. Kronos, yeah, we're talking about the pagers blowing up. Thank you, Messi. Thank you, Courtney. Thank you, Kronos. Real wild stuff. Well, it depends who they are, Any. 600 lost limbs and eyesight. I want to know who they were first. I don't really care if they're terrorists. You know what I mean? But I want to know who that is first. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Messi. Thank you, Bjorn. Yeah, we don't know how they did it. We don't know whether they somehow hacked the pager and got the pager to blow up on its own. Otherwise, they would have had to get each individual pager and put like plastic explosives inside and then put, I am Mr. Informed, Eric, not Miss. Actually, I'm misinformed. We are liberated in today's day and age. I am not misinformed. That's what old sexists would say. Misinformed would be the correct usage. Thank you. Who was that? Champagne. Thank you, Champagne. I mean, I want to see, like, hey, Nick, I want to see this story like in the next day or so to see kind of what they did. It might be horrible. It depends. I'm not going to feel bad that a bunch of terrorists got killed. If a ton of innocent civilians got killed or injured, then I'm going to feel bad. But a bunch of terrorists getting killed and injured, I have no problem with that. Anyway, we'll have to see what the story is. So let's do the election news first, guys, and then we'll move on to Ukraine. Anyway, welcome, folks. I'm John Aravosis. Anybody new on TikTok or even YouTube, this is a nightly show I do. Thank you, Messi, for subscribing, and thank you, Annie, for the gifts. This is a nightly show I do Monday to Friday, 6 o'clock Eastern. Thank you, Annie. We should, like, every time I get that dancing bear, I should do like the bear's dance. Woo! This is a show I do every Monday to Friday, 6 o'clock Eastern Time, U.S., where I talk about the latest news from Ukraine, talk about the latest American election news. My background is in U.S. politics. I'm from Washington. Well, I'm from Chicago, but I live in Washington, D.C., have been working there for almost 40 years now. My background is U.S. foreign policy. It's also U.S. domestic policy. I've done a lot of domestic politics. Law degree from Georgetown, master's in foreign service from Georgetown, lots of international experience, et cetera. So I try to sort of cut through the news and help you guys understand a little better what's going on from somebody who's somewhat on the inside. So let's jump into this. So the CNN Monmouth poll. So there's a new CNN reported there's a new Monmouth poll. Monmouth College has a very good election poll. People ask sort of which polls to trust. They're one of the good ones. I would say Monmouth is a good one. And what their poll shows is almost no change in the election from the Democratic convention. From the debates, from the Democratic debates with Donald Trump. When Kamala Harris trounced Trump about a week ago, didn't really change anything, which is kind of interesting. Hang on a second. I'm trying to see if I can. Always forget where to do this. I'm trying to see if I can find the little thing to put my computer into not sleep mode. Hang on, I'm going to find. Nope, not. Is it this? I think it's this. Here we go. There we go. I'll put my computer into sleep focus, which means hopefully it doesn't like make any more of those sounds. So yes, the new Monmouth poll shows that it looks like Kamala Harris didn't get any kind of a boost from the debate. Before the poll, they had Trump 43, Harris 48. So Harris was ahead by 5 points. After the poll, they've got Trump 44, Harris 49. Harris is ahead by 5 points. One thing to remember, as we always talk about in America, elections are not decided at the national level. They're decided at the state level. What I mean by that is you can win the national vote. Hillary Clinton won the national vote. She won the most number of people voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016. She beat Donald Trump by 3 million votes. Thank you, Dawn. She beat Donald Trump by 2 percentage points. She lost the election. Because in America, you actually have to win a certain combination of states. Each state has a certain point value assigned to it, anywhere from 3 points to the smaller states like Alaska or Washington, D.C., which isn't a state, but whatever, to the large states like California. They have something like 54 points. You've got to get 270 points. So enough states to reach 270 to become president. That means it doesn't matter. Like California, huge state. It doesn't matter if you win 80% of the votes in California. that doesn't do you any benefit more than winning 51%. If you win 51% of the votes in California, you get all of California's 54 electoral votes, 54 points, as I call them. If you win 90% of the votes in California, you still only get California's 54 points. So you see how if a candidate does really well in certain big states, like too well, it doesn't help them because they've got to win the other states too. So you end up a situation where Hillary Clinton won. She beat Donald Trump by 3 million votes. She lost. Al Gore, the Democrat, beat George Bush back in 2000 by 500,000 votes. He lost, right? So it's always, and my point in bringing this up now is not just to educate you all. Thank you, Messi, but it's also to explain that you've got to pay attention to state polls and states. I think it's still useful to look at national polls. If Hillary, I keep calling her, if Kamala Harris is consistently ahead by 5 points, that's pretty good, 5 percentage points. And if Biden was behind 3 and Harris is ahead 5, for example, that is interesting. That tells us that Harris is certainly doing much better than Biden's doing, right? So we know that from the national polls, but we still have to look at the state races or we don't know who's going to win. So anyway, I mentioned the Monmouth poll. It's more interesting, I think, because it shows us that Harris didn't get much of a bounce, at least according to one poll, from the debates. And typically you get about 2 points, 2 percentage points, the winner. Harris was clearly the winner. So we'll see. Didn't look like it's much. Microsoft. So CNN reports today that Microsoft says Russian operatives have been ramping up their operations on behalf of Donald Trump. The Russians have been creating, of course, a big surprise, fake videos and disseminating them online on Twitter and elsewhere in order to convince Americans, of course, that Kamala Harris is bad, Trump is good, but also to stoke race relations and just overall political divide. They want to stoke civil war. They want Americans hating each other, but they also don't want Kamala Harris to be president. Right? So they're kind of working on both. According to Microsoft, the Russians, for example, did, let me see here. One video claimed to show Kamala Harris supporters attacking an attendee at a Donald Trump rally. Never happened. Another video falsely claimed that Kamala Harris paralyzed a young girl in a 2011 hit and run accident. Now, I have to say, that one I'm kind of impressed by. It's so detailed that you wouldn't think it's fake. It's totally fake, right? Thank you, Messi. But it's so detailed. Thank you, Adventures, as well, right? You'd go, well, no, they probably got the girl's name. It was 2011. It was a hit and run. Like, you've got all these details that you go, this has to be true. It's not true. The Russians made it up. They put the video out there. A third one, what was the third one here? Maybe there's not a third one. Both videos were, let's do this. Both videos were still accessible on Twitter as of this afternoon. Elon Musk refused to remove them. Yeah. Mr. Free Speech. Elon loves to sort of censor people who disagree with him, censors the media, everybody else. But when it comes to like the Russians and Russian propaganda to sway our election, illegally, suddenly Elon's like a big fan of free speech. Big surprise there. Thank you, Messi, for the gift there. Please keep the gifts coming, guys. You know my usual pitch. I do this for a living. I do it full time. Your gifts help me pay the bills. I am not retired. No one pays me. People have asked me, are you retired? I'm like, this is my work. This is my job. And nobody pays me. That's another thing. Some people think like someone's backing me to do this. I have all of your backing. I will say all of your moral support, which I very much appreciate. I actually saw today, which was very cool. A woman drove by and stopped, and I thought she was going to ask directions. And she's a girl I went to high school with and grade school, but she was a year older than me, so I didn't know her. But she's like, I love your show. I watch all the time, and I saw you and the dog, and you looked familiar, which was really very sweet. So anyway, hello if you're out there. That was very sweet. So hey, PC Noel, Colin, Ginger, and Adventures for the gifts. Christabel, thank you for saying that. Kamala Harris. So Kamala Harris criticized Senate Republicans for blocking a bill today that would have protected in vitro fertilization nationwide across the United States. Republicans are in a really weird position. In vitro fertilization is part of a larger debate over abortion, actually, that we're having here in the States. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Simon. Thank you, Jane, for the gifts. As you guys know, Republicans are basically anti-abortion. Again, everyone, and it kind of drives me nuts when people do this. Obviously, there's 160 million Republicans in America. We can't interview each of you. because I'm sure you all have different nuanced views. The Republican Party is anti-abortion. The Republican Party wants to take the right of abortion away from women. Some Republicans are fine, but your party's not. Right? The MAGA party, even before MAGA took over, even before Trump took over, the Republican Party was about banning abortions. And they did. Donald Trump effectively successfully took away the protections for a woman's right to choose in America. Women used to have a constitutionally protected right to an abortion under a famous Supreme Court decision called Roe v. Wade. Thank you, Randy, for the gifts. And now it's gone. Thank you, Sidley. Trump was able to get it struck down. He picked three Supreme Court justices, conservative Republicans, who have a history of saying they wanted to kill Roe v. Wade to take away a woman's right to an abortion. Trump picked them on purpose in order to take away women's rights to an abortion. He said so, and they did it. They took it away. Roe v. Wade is now gone. Women no longer have a constitutionally protected right to an abortion in America. In 20 American states, abortions have already been banned. And now we're seeing things such as in vitro fertilization disappearing in various states because of what the Trump Republicans did. What they did in the state of Alabama, for example, thank you, Doughboy, for the gifts. They got the courts in Alabama, of course, Republican courts, that said fertilized embryos. We're talking about in vitro fertilization. If anybody doesn't know, a vitro means glass. I think it's Latin. It just means a vitriol. I think vitrio might be even Greek for glass, as I recall, or mirror, one or the other. But a in vitro fertilization means fertilizing, right, an embryo in glass. And you basically do it in the lab and then implant it into a woman. It's for couples who aren't able to, for whatever technical medical reason, they're not able to get pregnant. They're able to basically cause the fertilization in a test tube and then put it back in a woman's womb. Well, what Republicans are saying is those fertilized embryos, even if they're, zygotes, right? Even if they're what do they call them? Blastula, like the eight little cells that we saw in science class at the beginning. Those are human beings. Those are babies. So what the Republicans got the court to do in Alabama, a Republican court, they said that you are correct. Those little fertilized things inside the laboratory, microscopically small, are actually human beings. So that if you, and in this case, I think the laboratory had screwed up, thank you, Iggy, blastocytes. I remember like all of these words, blastocytes. They said that if you are a hospital, for example, or an organization, a company that helps women get pregnant, there was some kind of an accident in the lab, and some of the embryos got destroyed. Well, the court ruled that these embryos were human beings. You just murdered or killed human beings. And if you did it negligently, it's potentially murder. If you did it on purpose, it's potentially murder. Well, the problem for in vitro fertilization is twofold, guys. First of all, it's a practice that does not work 100%. I know this from friends of mine that have gone through it, who did in fact have children. I know it from stories we see in the news. Thank you, Diana. That basically you typically would fertilize multiple embryos, and you might even implant 3 of them, for example. Not because you want triplets, but because the odds are that maybe one of them will work and the other 2 will not work. And basically just the pregnancy won't work. So, but then you see sometimes people are able to have it work and they have 2 and 3 kids, right? Well, what the Republicans are saying, thank you, Eileen, thank you, Diana, is that because these embryos are people, you can't have the lab make, for example, the lab might make 8 embryos or blastocytes, right? And implant 3 of them, then they freeze the rest later in case it doesn't work. Or in case in a few years from now, you want another child because you're the same woman or man who can't create the fertilization, right? What the courts are saying is, no, you just froze human beings. Those are babies. Those are born babies. Those are people that you've got frozen in your refrigerator. So if you accidentally unplug the fridge, if you have a power outage, you could be sued for murder because you just killed. If you, by the way, any of you out there, right? If you use in vitro fertilization per this court decision, I mean, I'm a lawyer. They say that once these blastocytes are fertilized, you have just created human beings. Okay? That means in the fridge over at the doctor's office, you've now got 10 children in that fridge, or that freezer, I should say. You've got 10 children in that freezer. You don't have 10 embryos. You may have only wanted 1 child, and maybe it worked and you got 1 baby. You've still got 9 babies in the freezer. They're people. Well, if they're people, you can't unplug it. If they're people, you can't tell the hospital or the doctor's office, we've decided we don't want any more babies. You can just get rid of them. If they're people, you can't get rid of them. That's murder. So does the doctor's office have to keep these embryos on ice literally forever? Do you have to keep paying for it forever because you would literally be murdering your child? Well, guess what? A number of the in vitro fertilization organizations, clinics in Alabama said, we're not doing it. Hospitals too, they said, we're not doing it anymore. Like if we're open to liability for like murder because you're claiming, we're not doing it. Well, the Democrats have tried to pass 2 national legislation protecting in vitro fertilization, and the Republicans have killed it both times. They did first a couple months ago, and just today, again, Republicans in Congress killed the legislation that would have protected your right to in vitro fertilization. Why did they do it? Because of the anti-abortion crazies. I mean, that's why. So it's a crazy issue. It's an absolute crazy issue. Really wild. Anyway, it's ridiculous. No, I mean, it's ridiculous. And honestly, stop helping people. I mean, stop attacking people. Like if women want to have babies, just let women have babies. Like it's so, you all know what I'm talking about. It's just, and the thing is, abortion is a very bad issue for Republicans. What will be interesting about this election is in the last 2 years or so, maybe even 3 years, basically since Roe v. Wade was struck down. What date was Roe v. Wade struck down? It was, has it been 3 years now? How long has it been, guys? I don't have my Alexa in front of me to ask. What year was Roe v. Wade struck down? Somebody want to check? I forgot why I'm asking, but I was just kind of curious on the exact date. 2 years now, Erica's saying? Okay. 2 years. Although I'm forgetting why I was asking how many years. Oh yeah, in 2 years. Okay, June 24th of 2022. The reason I asked was because in the 2 years since, we have seen lots of elections where in every election, Democrats have done unusually well because of the abortion issue, that basically voters are not happy that Republicans did this. And you're even seeing Donald Trump now kind of try to back off on the abortion thing. And he even got into trouble because he talked about supporting some like pro-choice, pro-abortion legislation in Florida, and the religious right went crazy on it. So it has caused them real problem. Anyway, the point I was trying to make here is, in the elections that we've been having, thank you, Tattooed Mom, in the elections we've been having since the abortion ruling got struck down 2 years ago, that Republicans have done really badly, surprisingly badly, like worse than people anticipated. And they think it was because of the abortion issue and women turning out, and men, because let's face it, I always say abortion isn't just a woman's issue. I mean, lots of guys don't want to get women pregnant. Right? Lots of guys do not want to be forced to have a baby. Right? I mean, it always sort of got me. I've told you guys this before. Thank you, Nicole. But I think that abortion rights advocates really should speak to men too, because how would you feel if like I could see telling a man, how would you feel if the government told you you're allowed to have sex, but if you have sex and get a woman pregnant, you're going to have that baby. We're not going to give you a choice. We're going to make you have the baby. We're going to make you quit school. We're going to make you get a job. We're going to make you get married, which is actually what it is. I think most guys would freak out. Not every guy is married, right? Guys in college, guys in their 20s, tell them, if you get a girl pregnant, you will have zero choice. You will have that baby. I think guys would be pretty freaked out by that, to be honest. Anyway, just me, but I've always thought that was something that the abortion rights groups should keep. And I thank you, Mysterioso, for subscribing, should sort of focus on. It is not just, in essence, a woman's right to privacy. It's also a man's right to privacy in a sense, because it is control of his body in a sense, right? Anyway, just an issue I've had, like I said, I've always kind of felt that abortion is men and women. It's not just women, In any case. Thank you, Tattooed Mom. So let's move on from here. JD Vance, this was kind of an interesting story about JD Vance. So JD Vance, is Donald Trump's vice presidential pick. And he reportedly, in November 2012, so back 12 years ago, he was a law student at Yale, and he wrote a scathing rebuke, according to CNN, of the Republican Party's stance on migrants and immigration. Thank you, Macabre. He criticized the Republican Party's stance for being, quote, openly hostile to non-white people and for alienating Blacks, Latinos, and youth. Well, 4 years later, Vance wanted to run for the Senate. And he contacted his professor and said, please delete that article. I don't want people to know that I like, basically, I don't want people to know that I support people who aren't white, basically. Imagine, guys, defending people who are non-whites was considered and Latinos, specifically blacks and Latinos, was considered a deal breaker for him winning an election in the Republican Party. Okay. J.D. Vance determined that publicly supporting blacks and Latinos in writing was a death sentence for his political campaign. Thank you, Alia. So, thank you, Hedge. That's kind of cool. I've not seen that before. So he contacts the professor, has the professor delete the article, which he did, but the article is still on the Wayback Machine, which is hard to explain, but it's kind of an internet archive that's been going on. God, now I've known about it for 25 years. I don't even know when it started. Maybe did it start in the early, maybe mid 90s when the internet started, not the internet, but when the World Wide Web started. But it basically takes a snapshot of the internet, of the World Wide web pages, and saves them so that there's an archive of not every, but almost every web page, including my old work web page from 1998, which is funny. This little web page I put up from when I was consulting is buried on that machine somewhere. And it's kind of funny to look back because you see all the old stuff, but it's also bad for somebody like J.D. Vance, who, was basically a liberal Democrat and then said, I want to be a Republican who hates Haitians. So there you go. Let's move on and talk about Ukraine. So it's day 935, I think, if I got my count right, of Vladimir Putin's special 3-day military operation in Ukraine. And several stories here. So kind of the big story I want to talk about today, guys, because I think it's very important. This is it's very strange. There's a hubris involved here. Thank you, Dancing. Hubris is a wonderful word. I always forget if it comes from the Greek or the Latin. It is a word that means pride, hubris, but it is excessive pride. Thank you, Sean. I mean, it's kind of like arrogance. It's kind of like arrogance, I guess I would say, but it's a great word. You kind of have to get the nuance of it. Thank you, Sean. And the hubris involved in writing this article. Two people decided to write an article criticizing Ukraine and defending Russia, and basically saying America should cave to Vladimir Putin. He's scary, he's making threats, and we should get on our knees and kiss him. I stopped there for a second. You know what I was going to say, but I'm not allowed to on TikTok. I think YouTube might have let me. TikTok would definitely not have let me say this. Guess who the two people are who wrote the article saying, please, America, be very afraid of Vladimir Putin. He's angry and we don't want to make him angry. Let's do whatever he wants. And by the way, and America is wrong. America is evil, right? America's to blame for the war in Ukraine. Little old Russia is the nicest place on earth. Who do you think wrote that article? Donald Trump Jr. and Robert F. Kennedy Jr., okay? Two people. Now, in different ways here. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. knows absolutely nothing about Ukraine. He's an environmental activist, guys. He was an environmental activist. He was very good on the environment, actually. That was his issue. Then a worm ate his brain, and he kind of went crazy on the vaccine thing. Now, I'm not quite sure there's a connection between the worm eating his brain, literally did. He admitted it, and the vaccine thing. But he became a big anti-vaccine nutjob, conspiracy theorist. Not just somebody who, has concerns about vaccines. He's an anti-vaccine nutjob. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., thank you, Pedro, has said, by the way, a year ago, last summer, let me rephrase that. A year ago, i.e. last summer of a year ago, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said on CNN, there isn't a single vaccine that has been ever proven effective, and Robert F. Kennedy, there isn't a single vaccine that has ever been proven safe. He claims no vaccine has ever been proven safe, and my favorite, that no vaccine in the history of the world has ever been proven effective. Guys, I think even when they did that cowpox, didn't they do like some cowpox thing during the Revolutionary War? Even that worked. Well, it may not have been very safe, but it worked. To say polio? Exactly as Ash said, polio? Thank you, Stewart, for the gift. It's crazy, guys. So this is RFK Jr. He's an anti-vaccine nutjob. Well, he lately has become this far-right MAGA Republican nutjob. He endorsed Donald Trump for president. Nobody can figure out why. This guy was a big liberal environmental activist. That was his claim to fame. He was great on the environment. And now he's become a right-wing nutjob. Well, today he writes an article as a Ukraine expert. He's the guy. I've studied this stuff. I have a master's in international relations from Georgetown. I speak 5 languages. I've worked all over the world. I've worked at the United Nations, the World Bank. Like, I, among other people, have at least some qualifications to give an opinion on Ukraine. RFK Jr. isn't just brain rotted, well, brain eaten, I should say, not rotted, brain eaten from a bug with no background in foreign policy. He's a conspiracy nut and an environmentalist. Oh, but it gets better. Who writes the article with RFK Jr., the big analysis of Russia and America and who's to blame? Donald Trump Jr. Donald Trump's son, the dark-haired one with the funny voice, who speaks really fast, Donald Trump Jr., where every night he just shows like this and he talks like this. He goes, oh my guys, I'm going to tell you guys, can I tell you guys, what happened, guys? Let me tell you what happened today, guys. He literally does what I just did is no exaggeration. Donald Trump Jr., he does these often at night. They're very weird. They're very weird. They seem, to me, being a very innocent guy that I am, to me, it comes across like Donald Trump Jr. just drank 50 Coca-Colas. It literally is like out of the blue, talking like this, going, oh my God, guys, tell me, guys, okay, I tell you guys, can I tell you what happened? Guys, let me tell you what happened. So we were at this store the other day. Somebody who talks like that is weird, if you ask me. And especially when he doesn't always talk to us. So that's Donald Trump Jr. He's Trump's son. Maybe he knows about business. I'm not convinced he knows about business. I think he knows about his last name being Donald Trump. Just like Biden's son. I don't have a lot of respect for Biden's son either. Just like Biden's son, he likes to use his name. Well, okay, but again, guys, let's pretend he does know about business. What does Donald Trump Jr., that idiot with the black hair, know about geopolitics? What does he know about Russia and America and international relations and international conflict and war and military defense and strategies? What the hell does, I mean, like the history of Europe, the current geopolitical threat in Europe from the Russians and the Europeans, and I mean, what does he know about that? I mean, like when people go after movie stars for expressing opinions, like what the hell does Donald Trump Jr. know? Well, you'll be surprised that Donald Trump Jr. totally took the Russian side in the war. Now, it's also important to remember, thank you, Danson, for the dinosaur. You know, I love dinosaurs. I should also remind you, Donald Trump Jr. Donald Trump Jr. is the guy who, when the Russians approached the Trump campaign in 2016 and said, we represent the Russian government. We want to help you win the election. We've got information. And basically what they were suggesting in retrospect was it sounded like they were talking about having hacked Hillary Clinton and the Democrats, which the Russians did to help Trump. We've got information to help you. Would you like us, Russian government representatives, to help your campaign win the election? This was put in writing, emailed to Donald Trump Jr., who, of course, top advisor to his father, big guy in the campaign. And Donald Trump Jr. writes back, quote, in response to, we've got Russian government officials who have approached us privately and say they want to help elect your father president. Donald Trump Jr. responds, quote, I love it, exclamation point. My favorite part here is when the trolls always jump in and go, that's not true. Here's the problem. We know this because Donald Trump Jr. literally made the emails public. He claimed, thank you, Pedro, Paul Alexander. Oh, well, he was the one who died a couple months ago, though. It was Paul Alexander, Pedro, saying the iron lung guy just died from polio. Or not from polio, but had polio and was in an iron lung. Is he not the guy that died like 6 months ago, though? There was something like the oldest guy on polio that just died, or is he another one? Anyway, whichever it was, but yes, it was recent that like the oldest guy on an iron lung from polio just died. But let's talk about Donald Trump, though. I'm going to finish this with Donald Trump Jr., though. Thank you, Denise. So, where was I real quick? So I wanted to thank Pedro for the gift there. Where was I about Trump Jr.? Help me out, guys. I mean, I can keep going with this, but I want to continue my train of thought about Trump Jr. With the Russians. So the Russians approached Donald Trump's campaign and said, we've got Russian government officials that want to help our campaign. And Donald Trump Jr. said, I love it. He made his email public. He thought the emails exonerated him. He said, Russia, Russia, Russia. You all lie about our connections to Russia. I'm going to make my emails public and show you how innocent I am. And he released an email showing that he welcomed Russian government assistance to Donald Trump in the campaign in 2016. To me, that's treasonous behavior. I mean, to me, not to me, as a political expert and a media expert in Washington, D.C., that is the kind of thing that ends political careers, but not for Donald Trump, because Donald Trump can do anything he wants, right? Any case, that's who Donald Trump Jr. is. So keep in mind, they write an op-ed. Thank you, Bryce. They write up an article today, Donald Trump Jr. and RFK Jr., calling for America to basically get on its knees, lift its skirt, and say, Russia, have your way with us. We're sorry. Be nice to us. They blamed America for the war in Ukraine. They blamed Ukraine for the war in Ukraine. They blamed everybody for the war in Ukraine, except who do you think? Donald Trump Jr. Again, yeah, Russia, Russia, Russia. Yeah, you better believe it. Donald Trump Jr. and RFK Jr., who do you think they didn't blame for the war in Russia? Russia. For Russia's war in Ukraine, Russia. I'm going to read you some of this. It's really kind of, I mean, it kind of blows my mind. It absolutely blows my mind. I'm going to read you some of this. They're writing it because there's talk now about letting Ukraine use American long-range weapons to hit inside Russia, and Donald Trump Jr. is freaking out. Here's what's interesting about this. Again, there's some nuance here, but I like nuance, guys. This article they wrote isn't just, they claim it's about, oh, America's talking about maybe giving Ukraine weapons that they can use to strike Russia itself, and that would be dangerous. And okay, that's their first argument. And you're like, okay, we can debate that. Right? Whether letting the Ukrainians use our weapons to hit deep inside Russia, whether it's dangerous, fair enough, right? But then the article goes on and mentions other things we did wrong, such as providing HIMARS, providing tanks. Okay? So the article claims to be, oh my God, thank you, Dragonfly, for subscribing. Joe Biden, you're going too far, letting Ukraine get new missiles that can strike deep inside Russia. But then the article throws in there, and it was dangerous. You should never have given them tanks. You should have never given them HIMARS systems. Guys, they didn't want us to give Russia anything. This isn't an article about how dangerous it is, right, to give these weapons. This is an article about how bad it is to stand up to Russia and not do what Russia wants. Because if it was dangerous to give Russia HIMARS, where's my world war, right? They keep saying we're going to have a nuclear war. Where's my nuclear war? Where'd it go? For 2.5 years, right? There was going to be a nuclear war when we gave the HIMARS systems to Russia. Where was it? I must have missed that 2 years ago when we gave Ukraine HIMARS, right? Where was the nuclear war a year ago when we gave Ukraine tanks? Over a year ago. I didn't see a nuclear war. I mean, the point is, this is the problem with this article. There's so many problems. But let me read you some of this. At a time when American leaders should be focused on finding a diplomatic off-ramp to a war that should never have been allowed to take place. How about that? A war that should never have been allowed to take place. What does that mean, right? Like, I debated in high school, and we love to debate people on things like this and go, so what do you mean? So you're saying you would have stopped, it should have never been allowed to take place. Like somehow we all allowed Russia to invade Ukraine. How exactly would you have stopped Russia from invading Ukraine? Well, they tell us in the article. I'm going to go on. The Biden-Harris administration is instead pursuing a policy that, listen to this, that Russia says it will interpret as an act of war. Why the fuck do I care what Russia says? No, but I mean, right? I mean, okay, we're pursuing a policy that Russia says it will interpret as an act of war. Okay. I mean, keep in mind, Russia's been threatening war with us for 2.5 years. Russia's been threatening nuclear war since 1950s, literally when they were the Soviet Union. It's been 70 years that Russia's been threatening nuclear. But I'm not being funny, guys. Russia's been threatening nuclear war for 70 years against us. Nuclear war, very serious thing. But this isn't like a new thing. And if Don Jr. weren't so new to this topic, and if RFK Jr. weren't so new to this topic, they would know, yeah, the Russians just threatened nuclear war 3 days ago. They also threatened it 5 days ago, and 7 days ago, and 12 days ago, and a year ago, and 5 years ago, and 10 and 20 years, and 30 and 40 years ago. This is what the Russians do. Ever since they got the bomb, like Chazek just said, in the early 1950s, the Russians have been threatening nuclear war for 70 years now, guys. 74 years, give or take. Let me read this, though. But again, what's important is this article written by Donald Trump Jr., thank you, Jorge, and RFK Jr. keeps talking about, but Putin says he'll be angry, and saying that we should make American policy based on Vladimir Putin's threats. Putin said he'll be angry, so we shouldn't do it. Why? Like, I'm sorry. Are you running to be president of Russia, or are you running for your father to be president of the United States of America? We should not be making U.S. policy based on, well, Putin said something, so I guess we have no choice because Putin said so. Like, who the hell? It's published in The Hill, which is not a very good publication anymore. Let me read on here. However, the Biden-Harris administration is instead pursuing a policy that Russia says it will interpret as an act of war. In the words of Vladimir Putin, again, quoting Vladimir Putin, long-range strikes in Russia will mean that NATO countries, the United States and Europe, are at war with Russia. Okay, why do I care what Vladimir Putin says? Let's go on. These analysts are mistaking restraint. So then they're saying, okay, well, a lot of people say that Putin's been threatening war for 2.5 years over Ukraine and really hasn't done it, right? He's been threatening to nuke us for 2.5 years. Where are the nukes? Their response, rather than going, you kind of, the 150th time you threaten to nuke me and you don't, I'm going to start not being as worried about you nuking me, right? Right. The 150th time you go, oh boy, mind you, it's been 2 years, okay? Twice a week, 3 times a week, well, twice a week. You go, I'm going to hit you, Aravosis. After 2.5 years of twice a week, you saying that, I don't really care anymore, right? They interpret it otherwise. These analysts who say that Russia's clearly bluffing are mistaking restraint for weakness. Oh, yeah, it's been 2.5 years of Russia showing restraint, guys. Oh, yeah. Putin could hit us. Putin could hurt us. He's ready to strike out at us, but he's been showing restraint for 2.5 years, under which he's had 600,000 Russian casualties in Ukraine. He's lost Russian territory for the first time since World War II when the Nazis invaded, right? He's in a stalemate with Ukraine and can't figure out what the hell to do to solve this war because the Ukrainians are a stalemate, but Putin's in a stalemate too. The only reason Putin isn't doing more to win this war is because he's showing restraint. Maybe he's done everything he can and he's kind of fucked over, right? Is the possibility here. But not to the Russia lovers, Donald Trump Jr. or FK Jr. They're mistaking Putin's restraint for weakness. In essence, they are advocating a strategy of brinkmanship. No, we're advocating a strategy of balls, of backbone, of not making American policy based on, well, we were going to do something, but Vladimir Putin said we shouldn't. So why would we ever do something when Vladimir Putin says no? That's the way you run your country? No country. Let me, by the way, make this clear. No country operates that way. No country operates under the assumption that, well, we want to do something, but because some guy who's our enemy says no, we have no choice. We just have no choice. I mean, literally, like, a small child might say that. A wimp would say that. That's not how foreign policy works. Listen to this. Here's where they criticize HIMARS and tanks and F-16. Listen to this. Each escalation, they're calling it an escalation whenever America supports Ukraine. Notice the Russian language. Every step of the way, this is Russia speaking in this article. Each escalation from HIMARS to cluster munitions, to Abrams tanks, to F-16s, to ATACMS draws the world closer to the brink of Armageddon. Guys, these idiots didn't even want to give Ukraine HIMARS rocket systems. They got the HIMARS like the summer of 2022, 2 years ago. They didn't even want to give them those. Okay? I mean, again, they claim the article is, oh no, we shouldn't be giving Ukraine the new weapons that can strike deep into Russia and tell them it's okay to strike deep into Russia because that's a step too far. But then you get later in the article, you find out actually giving HIMARS rocket systems 2 years ago was a step too far. Giving tanks 1.5 years ago was a step too far. Giving ATACMS weapons 9 months ago was a step too far. I mean, do you get what's going on here? These are Russia sympathizers. This is literally written by Russia. Listen to this. Their logic seems to be that if you go to Bear 5 times and it doesn't respond, it's safe to go to him even harder a 6th time. No, their logic is if you go to Bear 150 times, the 151st time you can pretty much guess that bear is scared shitless and isn't going to touch you. That's what the logic is. And the logic would be correct. If 150 times a country threatens things in a 2.5-year period, it means they're bluffing. I got news for you, right? I mean, it boggles my mind. I have to read more of this. Putin, once again, notice how they keep falling back on what Putin says. By the way, I'm reading this article written by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Donald Trump Jr., basically defending Russia in the war in Ukraine and saying America should hand Ukraine over to Russia because it's all our fault and Putin did nothing wrong. So listen to this. Putin has signaled numerous times that Russia would use nuclear weapons in extreme circumstances. Yes, he has. Where are the nukes? Where are they? Where are they? I remember in our debate, I was a debater in high school. And I remember watching this one, beautiful, Mary Tripsis was her name. Wonderful debater. I don't know if she's, I haven't heard of her since high school. Brilliant woman, most beautiful debater. I talk quickly. Mary was very slow and reasoned. I remember watching Mary debate somebody, and he was saying, you know, if you do this, it's going to lead to nuclear war. And their whole argument was every step of the way would lead to nuclear war. And Mary was great. Mary goes, so, okay, let me kind of just work on this. So, oh, hang on a second. I'm going to do this myself. Goodbye. Yeah, you're not coming back. So Mary says, okay, so so you said if we do this, it'll lead to nuclear war. Okay. And if we do this, it'll lead to nuclear war. And if we do this, it'll lead to nuclear war. And she kind of walked through and she goes, okay, so you've got 10 nuclear wars. Now, could you walk me through which nuclear war hits first? He goes, what do you mean? Well, no, you just spelled out 10 nuclear wars that are going to happen. How does that walk me through it? Like which nuclear war hits first? And the guy was like, oh, and she goes, oh, okay. So we'll throw out the first. Okay, let's talk about the second nuclear war. When does that one happen? And does the second nuclear war like preclude the third nuclear war? Like if they have two, can they not have a third? And I mean, because the guy was just making shit up, right? You're going to have 10 nuclear wars. The notion, thank you, Championess, the notion that the Russians have threatened us, like literally, I'm not making this up. The Russians have threatened us maybe 150 times to nuke us in the last 2 years with Ukraine, 2.5 years. The notion that, oh no, the fact that the Russians have threatened us 150 times to nuke us in the last 2 years and not nuked us doesn't prove they're bluffing. It proves they're serious, but they're restrained. They're holding back. Girl, I got a bridge to sell you. The war, listen to this too. Blame America first. I always say this. America first is about blame America first. I wish the Democrats would say this. Thank you, Flash Saxon, for subscribing. We should call the Republicans what they are. They're the blame America first caucus. They think America isn't great. They think America is to blame for the world's problems. They are the socialists and the communists. They're the far left now. They're the old Europeans who hated America is now the old Republican, the new Republican Party. Listen to this. The war fever in the U.S. foreign policy establishment is at such a pitch. So saying it's the U.S. foreign policy establishment's fault that the war is happening. I'm gonna read this. Russia made its war aims very clear at the outset, most notably Ukrainian neutrality and a halt to NATO's eastward expansion. You did not subscribe. Somebody bought you a gift membership section. I thought you subscribed. People throw out gift memberships so that you get one for free for a month, and it lets you get little emojis and stuff. But it also lets you join our Saturday. We do a show every Saturday morning just for subscribers. It's much smaller, and we kind of have a more, it's not an intimate talk, but a sort of easier talk because it's fewer people. So that's what the gift memberships do. So somebody bought it for you as a gift, and it gets thrown out there, and the computer gives it to you. So there you go. Don't worry. You didn't pay for anything. Don't worry. Guys, I'm not going to go through the rest of this, but bottom line is he just says Russia made its war aims very clear. Ukrainian neutrality, which Ukraine was already neutral, and a halt to NATO's eastward expansion. They just blamed NATO. NATO wasn't expanding eastward. NATO hasn't expanded eastward in 20 years, right? Ukraine has been trying to join NATO since 2008. 2008 to 2022, guys, right? 14 years. Ukraine has, by the way, look at it right now. Is Ukraine any closer to joining NATO today? No. Where is this NATO expansion? Is it in the room with us right now, as they say? Thank you, Blue. Blue's doing a bunch of subscriptions. Thank you, Blue. Thank you, Joe, as well, right? I mean, where is this? What's happening here? This article could have been written by the Kremlin. It is literally Russian talking points. Anybody who actually knows the subject, who knows foreign policy, who knows international relations would tell you Russia didn't invade because NATO was expanding. Russia didn't invade because NATO, because Ukraine wasn't neutral. Russia invaded because Russia wants the Soviet Union back. They want their neighbors back. They owned a bunch of countries in Europe that they took hostage for 50 years after World War II. They took all of Eastern Europe. They cut Europe in half. They were allies with the Nazis. The Nazis turned and invaded Russia 22 years later, and suddenly the Russians were at war with Nazis. Up until then, not Putin, but the Russians and the Nazis were like, this, okay, best buddies. The Nazis attack, the Russians have to fight back. That's the only reason they went to war with the Nazis. Thank you, Nauseous. Once the war's over, what does Russia do? The evil Russian dictatorship, communist dictatorship, takes over half of Europe. They literally took Europe hostage. Thank you, Ever, for subscribing. Blue might have done that. Thank you, Blue. Took half of Europe hostage. They imposed horrific totalitarian dictatorships, communist dictatorships on these countries. Horrific. Murdered people, threw them in prison. Rolled tanks through the streets to kill students that tried to rise up in Czechoslovakia and Hungary. Murdered these people, held them hostage for 45 years. They also held people hostage in the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union was basically Russia as sort of the center of the evil empire, holding 14 other countries hostage in essence. One of those countries was Ukraine. 3 of those other countries were Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, countries that Russia was holding hostage as part of the Soviet Union. The Russians want them back. They want their hostages back. Right? That's what's going on. What are you doing, dog? Do you need to go out or what? You're worrying me here. I may have to go find your leash. All right, dog's making some noises, which makes me think she may have to go out. You know how this works. She always has to decide she's got to go out when it's like the last second here. All right, let me listen. If I hear her making another noise, I'm going to have to take her out. But I think, you know what? I know my dog. Give me a second, guys. I know my dog. All right, dog. What's going on? The dog gets what the dog wants. You know how this works. We are a show we are a show run by the dog. So anyway, I mean, oh God. Let me read the last line of the article too. I will say the last line literally made me laugh. Okay. We're talking about an article that Donald Trump Jr., Trump's son, and RFK Jr. wrote about nuclear war in Ukraine. They're like as though they're experts on, they know nothing about the issue. They know I'm an expert on the issue. They know nothing on the issue. Donald Trump Jr., literally, I'm trying to control myself when speaking about him. He's not a very bright man. And maybe he knows about business. Maybe. Thank you, Luis. He knows jack shit about international politics and political strategy and defense strategy and foreign policy or anything else. RFK Jr. might know slightly more, not much. They write an article about how United States basically has to bend down, and as Kamala Harris said during the debate, Donald Trump's policy in Ukraine is to give Vladimir Putin is for America to lose, to bend down and give Vladimir Putin everything he wants on a platter, to basically become Vladimir Putin's stooge. Listen to the last line of the article that could have been written by a 10-year-old. Nuclear war would mean the end of civilization as we know it, maybe even the end of the human species. That's how they ended the article, guys. I mean, okay, I'm also a professional writer. I've written for The Economist. I've done a lot of media. I mean, I've done Literally, I've written for The Economist. I'm a professional writer for real. Somebody publishing an article about military strategy and foreign policy, very complicated U.S.-Russian relations, and concluding that we should cave to Russia and give them everything they want because, quote, nuclear war would mean the end of civilization. As first of all, civilization as we know it. Again, are you a child? The sentence should read, nuclear war would mean the end of civilization. It's not as we know it. So you mean civilization as we don't know it would survive? What is civilization as we don't know it, right? Is there some aspect like civilization on the dark web or something? Would it survive? No, but you know what I mean? Like civilization as we know it is literally a child's phrase. Somebody who doesn't know how to write would say that. It's a cliche. So mind you, it's the end of civilization, but then they throw in maybe even the end of the human species. I am telling you, Vladimir Putin wrote this freaking piece. I will have a very difficult time believing Vladimir Putin didn't write this piece. I hate these people. I just hate these people. They're so un-American. The Trump people are so un-American. They ask us why we always talk about Russia, 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 because you people literally work for America's enemies. You work for the Russians. You defend America's enemies. You hate America's allies. You hate the troops. Donald Trump has said American troops are suckers and losers for fighting in the military, suckers and losers for being killed in action and prisoners of war, right? They hate our allies. They hate the South Koreans. They hate the Europeans. Loves North Korea, loves the dictator there. Trump loves the dictator in Russia. Can't stand Ukraine. Doesn't care about Eastern Europe. Doesn't care about anything. Trump doesn't care about anything. He does care about Mother Russia. The Republicans have become the caricature of the Democrats. The Democrats were always caricatured as being far left, un-American wimps who cared more about America's enemies than America itself. That is now the Republican Party. It boggles my mind, and I wish Democrats would call them out on it more. It is, they're right. It just makes me sick. Anyway, so speaking of how great the Russians are, more Russian war crimes. Ukraine's ombudsman reported that he's appealed to the International Committee of the Red Cross and the United Nations. This is from the Kyiv Independent in response to a photo that allegedly shows the execution of a Ukrainian prisoner of war by Russia on the morning of September 17th. A photo of an apparently executed Ukrainian soldier with a sword in his chest and the inscription "For Kursk" appeared on social media. Kursk is the region in Russia that the Ukrainians invaded and took over. Wall Street Journal, the number of Ukrainians and Russians killed or wounded in the war has reached roughly 1 million. That's a combined number of Russians and Ukrainians killed and wounded. The confidential Ukrainian estimate from earlier this year put the number of dead Ukrainian troops at 80,000 and the wounded at 400,000. Western intelligence estimates Russian casualties vary, with some putting the number of dead as high as 200,000 Russian dead and 400,000 Russian wounded. British Ministry of Defense came out today and also said their estimate is 610 Russian casualties in the war. Russian casualties in military terms means killed and wounded. So wounded enough to take you out of war so you can't fight, or killed, 600,000. It's pretty bad. Ukraine destroys Russian ammunition depots near occupied Mariupol. Good for Ukraine. Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp say they are banning the Russian state media network RT from its platforms because RT basically is now not just a propaganda arm of the Russian government, they're actually a covert spy arm of the Russian government. Italy is going to be delivering the promised SAMP-T air defense system by the end of September to Ukraine. Germany pledges over 110 million in winter aid to Ukraine. And the German foreign minister warned today that if Ukraine falls, Moldova is the next country in line. Moldova is another European country just west of Ukraine. And the concern is, very serious concern, that Don Jr. and, of course, RFK Jr. wouldn't understand because they don't know anything about this. But the concern is that the Russians are going to go after the rest of Europe next, and they're going to start with Moldova after they grab Ukraine. And by the way, if you want to avoid a world war, you want to avoid a nuclear war, then you stop the Russians in their tracks. Because if the Russians keep going, if the Russians keep taking more of Europe, if the Russians are allowed to win in Ukraine, there's going to be war between us and the Russians. Because just like with Germany in World War II, they're going to go, you guys are a bunch of wimps. we're going to keep taking more and more and more until you stop us. So, all right, that's it for today. Let's do some Q&A. I went long, but I was talking about that hideous piece by RFK Jr. and Donald Trump Jr. that I still can't believe they. I mean, literally, I read the entire piece. It's something out of Russian Pravda. It's literally just an entire. It's a Russian. It's Russian. I mean, it just blows my mind. Absolutely blows my mind. I don't know, Pedro. Pedro asked a good question. How come after the debate, no big leap for Kamala Harris? I mean, the question there is, well, here's the issue with that. Typically, after the debate, they looked at CNN looked at this and found that usually you get about a 2-point bump in the polls. So you go up about 2 percentage points, but that's it after the debates. So it's nice though. 2 percentage points matters in a close election, but it's not huge. You know, this election is not just very close, but it seems like it's not moving a lot. It moved a lot when Kamala Harris entered, right? She got a lot of support that Biden wasn't getting. Now it seems to be kind of locked in place. Donald Trump got shot at in the first time around. He got 2 days later, he had his convention. He didn't move in the polls. Right? He didn't move in the polls at all. Got shot at and had his convention, and the polls didn't move. Kamala Harris had an excellent convention. Maybe she went up 1 or 2 points, maybe after the convention, maybe one. After the debate, she destroyed, everyone agrees, Republicans too, she destroyed Donald Trump. Not clear yet whether it helped her in the polls. Maybe there are no undecideds. Yeah, you know, maybe it is. Maybe that's exactly what it is. I don't know. D. Ryan, I'm not opposed to a meet and greet. We'd have to figure out kind of where and when. I'm just not sure where. Chicago. The problem is Chicago is so freaking big. You know, we have to. Ashley and I have to talk about it because Ashley's in the Chicago area too. I just worry that, you know, it's such a big area. But again, maybe on a weekend, maybe we pick a Starbucks or because the weather's still nice. You know, maybe one of these coming weekends we just pick somewhere and meet. You know. I agree. JJ says, I'm feeling less confident by the day that Biden will actually grant permission to Ukraine with long-range strikes. I agree. I think he's afraid of Putin. He's always been afraid of Putin. And I think the reason he's talking to Zelensky about it is because he's trying to let him down nicely. Yeah. Am I done with DC? I wish I were done with DC, but I'm stuck in Chicago for a while. But I hope to be. I can't stand DC anyway, but I'm not planning on staying here in Chicago, no. But I will be here for a while. Oh boy. What else we got here? Ronald Reagan is turning over in his grave. He absolutely is. He would hate these guys. He'd hate these guys. Is the Parthenon still in business? We never really went to that route. I think once upon a time it might have been a good restaurant. We don't really go there anymore. Downtown Chicago. It might still. I assume it's still there. It's probably still there. I don't know where I'd go, Mel, if I left DC. I don't know. I hate DC though, so it's kind of hard to say. You know. People aren't very nice. Honestly, the city's too liberal. People aren't very nice. It's not a well-functioning city. It's never been a very it doesn't work. It's too small. Governance has never been great. The crime has always been bad. And I was telling my cousin today, I'm just tired of it. You know, you can't go out at night and walk your dog because it's too dangerous. I mean, I will not walk my dog after dark. It's too dangerous. I mean, I've lived there 40 years now. Like I will literally take her out after dark. I'll go across the street, let her do stuff and come home. But there's no way I would ever walk around the block after dark. You'd be crazy. And I live in an okay neighborhood. You know, no way. I just think it's a horrible town. And people aren't very nice either. People from DC are from all over. White people certainly are. And but they're not nice. I'm just kind of tired of it at this point. And it is way too liberal. I mean, that's a whole, but I mean, like San Francisco liberal, the politics, it's just, I mean, you know, it's just too much. So moved to Bulgaria. I had to visit Bulgaria first. I was in New York. I like New York. New York's very expensive. Politics is a little bit left for me, but that's okay. Very expensive, but it's so freaking expensive. The taxes are so high in New York, you know, but I did like New York a lot. I will say it very much is. It's such a unique city. I mean, New York in many ways it is. I mean, I've lived in Paris. It's different. It's not Paris, but in some ways it is in the sense of just the concentration of culture and life that you just don't get in other places. It's even more so than Paris in a way. New York is just a hyper concentration of these things, you know. There we go. Good. Anyway, moving to Panama. Well, we got cousins in Panama. They like it. They like it. Thank you, Miles, for the gift. You were born and raised in California, Bay Area, now New Hampshire. That's interesting. I mean, I'd like to move somewhere where people are nice. I wouldn't mind moving somewhere warm, you know, like not Chicago. I like Chicago. People are nice at least. But DC, I'm tired of it. It's expensive and they're not nice, you know? Like, it's just like, you know, calm down. Oh, you're leaving us. See, this is the Russian troll thing. Calm down doesn't make sense. I'm literally sitting here talking slowly about where people want to live. I mentioned, I love the Russian trolls because, or it could be a bot too, by the way. That could literally be a fake account. Because literally I'm sitting here talking to you guys slowly about like where to live, and the person writes, calm down. Like that would have been a troll comment. Oh, where's Amanda? That would have been that would have been the comment you'd save when I was really riled up talking about RFK Jr., right? You don't say it when like we're talking about, so where would you want to live? What do you think about Chicago, right? I mean, that's what I told you guys. They get talking points. They get like a sheet of paper or an email that tells them what to say, and they just say it without listening to the conversation. Or it's a bot. It literally could be some automated thing that just throws stuff out there to. The Russians are so bad at this. I mean, no, but they're good. I mean, obviously they're good at some of the deception. We know that. Puerto Rico, and you fell in love with Maine. Oh, that's so interesting. That's such a difference, I would think, Puerto Rico to Maine. Not a lot of Puerto Ricans in Maine, I would think, huh? I liked Maine, though. I visited Maine once or twice. I really liked it. Again, like it was Portland. Portland was very relaxing, like a kind of a small town feel to it, like relaxing. I liked that, even though I'm very Midwest and ethnic and all of that. There was something very relaxed about it. Calm, a very calmed down feeling, if I may quote our Russian troll. Thank you, Max, which was kind of nice, you know. You live in Wales at the moment and have most of my life. Wait, I live in Wales at the moment and have most of my life one of the most beautiful places ever. Brian, I'm thinking what you meant to say is it's one of the most beautiful places you've ever lived. Is that, you kind of sound like Don Jr. there a second there, Brian. The Maine coastline is beautiful. I like Portland. Oregon was nice. Portland was okay. Portland's got its problems. I don't think I'd want to live in Portland. A few too many problems there in Oregon. You know. Oh, but yes, we have the best bots. That'd be a good T-shirt too. We have the best. I have the best bots. I have the best bots. Canada feels safe, I'm sure. Florida, if Florida weren't such a crazy state full of lunatics, right-wing nut jobs, you guys kind of lost me with COVID. Any state that doesn't care if like seniors just die from COVID and tries to make it political, I don't feel safe going. I think unfortunately, I think Florida's a bunch of nut jobs. I really do. You know, that you guys let the crazies take over the state. I thought of retiring there because I thought it'd be kind of nice with the weather and stuff. Also, the hurricane thing isn't great either. Thank you, DNC Warrior. DC politics isn't as bad as San Francisco, but it's pretty damn liberal. Like kind of ridiculously liberal. Like, you know, have you hugged a criminal today, liberal? It's bad. It's very bad. You know. Swabia, South Africa. I've never even heard of Swabia. Oh, excuse me. Oh, you have a speech impediment. You're talking into your phone. That's okay because I don't have a speech impediment, but whenever I talk into my iPhone, it always gets it wrong. And I am known for sending text messages that are always writing something. And my friends, I use a text. I use Siri to write my stuff, and people always go, "Yeah, I noticed." So yes, I wasn't sure what you meant there, Brian, but I thought that's what you meant. That Wales was one of. I've never been to. I'd love to go to Wales. I told you, Torchwood introduced me to Wales with the accent. I loved the accent. You know, but I've not been around other than, like I said, like London, Edinburgh, and Frinton-on-Sea, because my friend Sean is from Frinton-on-Sea and invited me there when I was living in France when I was 19. I went to visit Frinton. Those are the three places I've been. Three places I've been in the UK, I think. Yeah, I think that's it. DC, Virginia's better if you don't mind not having civil rights, but yeah, Maryland might be better too. I mean, again, they're depending where they can be safer than DC. Yes, Virginia has its political problems, but they go back and forth. Maryland, not bad. Baltimore, sadly, Baltimore crime is even worse than DC. Arlington, I do find Arlington can be nice. Old Town is beautiful. Old Town Alexandria is beautiful. Not close enough to DC. People who go to DC don't always visit, but it's very pretty. Vermont, I've been to a couple. I love Vermont. Salt Lake City, I think I'd have a little bit of an issue with the people who live there. I know too much to live in Salt Lake City. They would drive me crazy. Mykonos, yeah. Probably too many tourists in Mykonos, I would say. From what I've heard, it's gotten like unlivable with the UN story. Don't go there, Russell. Good try, though. Thank you, Randy, for the gift on TikTok. Keep the gifts coming, guys. New Jersey, Asbury. I went to Asbury Park when I was a kid. All I remembered was the amusement park and like it was a boardwalk. I think when I was a kid, at least, it was a boardwalk area with an amusement park because I liked it because of the amusement park. We had cousins there. Maybe we still do, but I must have been, I don't know. Could I have been 6 or 7 or something at the 8? Maybe. Thank you, Randy, for the gift. I don't even remember now. Thank you, user 336. Yeah, right. Old Town would be probably too expensive to live in, Drake. That's my guess. Lincolnshire in the UK, never heard of it. South Holland, beautiful at that. I don't know it. I've never even heard of it. When will DC have voting rights? Isn't that a question? Yeah, I don't know. You wouldn't walk your dog after dark in Asbury Park, New Jersey? Okay. Mississippi, yeah. I've never been. So that's true. I'd have to check it out. I've always kind of fantasized about moving to Europe to retire, but because I've always enjoyed that, foreign, to sound not too simplistic. I've always enjoyed foreign stuff, but meaning I've traveled all over the world. I've lived all over the world. I speak many languages. I get a thrill out of that. But we'll see. I am not to jinx it, but I'm trying to get my Greek passport again still. Let's see. I am owed it, yes, but the process is very complicated. Let's use the word complicated. But I am absolutely owed the Greek passport, yes. But we'll see if I can get it. Trying again. I spent today trying to get the exact spelling in Greek of my mom's name in Greek English, in Greek for her and her parents, because of course I know it in Greek, but to get it spelled just perfectly on my computer, typing in Greek, and mom's gone now, so like I have to make sure I get it right myself. We shall see. I'm gonna keep trying. But because I would love to. It's important to me. I mean, the Greek side is important, not just for a European passport, but my Greek heritage is very important to me. So I would like to get it recognized. So hopefully I can. It'd be nice. Tuscany is giving people $35,000 to move there. Okay, I'd take that. Mom was 94. Thank you, Bad Omen. She had a good life, very good life. What else, guys? The lipstick. I forgot about that lipstick thing. I think it says "I love you," does it? Or "I heart you"? Maybe it's something like that. I've been dying to go to Albania. I don't know if I want to live in Albania, but I've never been. Our family has ties to Albania-ish. We are a thank you, Isa. We are a I don't know what we call our people in Greece are called Arvanites, and it's a tribe. I'm not sure what word one uses. There's sort of an ethnic subset in Greece that we are, and we have ties to very close to Albania, maybe even Albania itself. It's a little complicated because Greeks kind of don't want to be Albanian. So there's a little bit of that going on. As my aunt explained to me, she goes, because my uncle was telling me that our family came down from near Albania back in the 1400s and moved to southern Greece. And my aunt is looking at me across the table and she's going, and I asked her later, I said, what do you mean? She goes, well, I think it's more like 1800. She goes, and it might not have been near Albania. It might have been Albania. And she said, the Greeks don't really want to be associated with Albania. So a lot of them say near Albania. I've only met a couple Albanians in my life at the United Nations, by the way, two very lovely people that I worked with, very serious people, but they were very nice. But thank you, Rich. But it was so our family has ties certainly to people that are from the Albania region back, I think, before the borders were very firm. So we were Greek, we were Albanian, we were this. Actually, I was reading it to my nephew today. It's kind of fun because they were basically kind of mercenaries. They were like kind of guns for hire a little bit. Even the women were armed, which I love that in the 1700s, the women carried guns and stuff. 1800s, the women were armed. I am the NRA in Greek. But they were like kind of badasses. Very interesting. The problem is the Greeks are a little bit racist against the Albanians, a little bit. I don't want to say racist. I'm not sure what word to use, but they look down on them, so they don't want to be associated with them. Zarpatsi, that's what it is. It's every country has its thing. That's meaning you go back in history, the Greeks kind of didn't want to be associated with Albania. It's poor, I'm sure, among other reasons. Your poor neighbor, okay, Gustav. I was trying to be nice, Gustav. Italy and Sicily. Okay, I always forget about that's true. Southern Italy for the Italians. Southern Italy is considered kind of dirty, right? The poor relations, exactly. Like you know what it reminds me of? And I would say, thank you, Elizabeth. Sometimes, years ago, I was working at the World Bank, and you would talk to Latinos in Latin America, especially in Mexico, because I was doing work in Mexico with the World Bank. And this is now the early 1990s. I don't know about today, but maybe anybody out there who's Latino can tell me. And there was always this thing among certain people who were higher class, who had money, that they would always make sure to tell you that they weren't, local. They were actually Spanish. Like, I'm Mexican, but I'm actually Spanish. Because they didn't want, I remember my boss explaining to me, they didn't want to be seen as Mexican because it was kind of, right? And they wanted to be, I'm European blooded, right? And they would say, I'm actually Spanish. And I was actually I remember one guy saying that to me. Thank you, Larissa. I remember one guy saying that to me, saying I'm Spanish. And I said, oh, you're not Mexican, you're Spanish. He goes, no. I'm Mexican, but my family came from Spain, like his grandparents or his great-grandparents. And I'm like, I didn't say it, but I'm like, well, that's like me saying I'm Greek. I am, but I'm not. I'm American. My mother and my grandparents came. I would say I'm Greek American, but I wouldn't say, oh, I'm not American, I'm Greek. Of course I'm American. So I don't know. Is that a thing today with Latin America at all? With sort of the wealthier types? Do they try to sort of there's this, oh no, I'm Spanish kind of thing? Do you have that in Puerto Rico still, Cecil? I wouldn't be surprised. We all have that kind of thing, right? Asians have their own weird thing about skin color. And I like Black community has its own thing about, meaning skin color within the community or different skin colors within the Black community. Like we all have that kind of thing, well, the indigenous thing, right? Exactly. Because what you're really saying is, I'm not a native. I'm not an Indian, so to speak, the old word we used, right? I'm not native. My blood comes from Europe. I'm like a European, right? I get it. I don't accept it, of course, but that's the kind of thing like you guys are saying with Sicily, with the Italians. I know because I spent a lot of time in Italy. I speak Italian. This sort of the terone, right? That was it. The terone or the teroni, teroni or terone, teroni plural, I believe, or terone. Wasn't it terone? Ends in an e though. No, I thought, but it was like the derogatory word for the Southerners. Because they were, as I recall, they were the word based on land, terra. They were people of the land because they worked the land. And of course, people who worked the land with their hands and stuff who wants to be them, right? That's my family, that we were farmers, you know. No, either. Is it terroni? It should be terroni, plural, but in my mind, I'm hearing terrone. Anybody who's super fluent in Italian want to tell me real quick? We want to get our Italian slurs down correctly. We did talk about pagers at the beginning. We were duly impressed, but a little concerned about civilians, but also very, very impressed. It's not terrona, that's for sure. No, not at the end. Now, maybe depending on dialect and stuff, right? But it's either terroni or terrone. I'm forgetting. But yeah, everyone's got that, you know, right? Russia, like Ukraine. Wait, Russians like Ukraine, but look down on Poland. Oh, that's funny. It's always so funny to me. E is like the sound. I don't know. I'm thinking terrone is what I'm thinking, right? Yeah, Ash. It does always crack me up because I think, like, obviously racism is stupid. I mean, I don't want to sound like Donald Trump Jr. writing an op-ed, right? Nuclear war is bad. But racism is obviously dumb. So that, but what always cracks me up is, I think, when you see racism that isn't your culture. So the idea of, you know, Chinese and Koreans and Japanese hating each other, as a Westerner, as a white person, it almost seems fun, not funny, but funny in a, like, how stupid, you know what I mean? Because, like, who cares? Or again, the idea of somebody black being light-skinned black and dark-skinned black. As a white person, you're like, all the white people see you as black, you know, like it's why would you care amongst yourselves? I mean, it's, you know what I mean? It's so like, even this with, like, Russians looking at Poles as being lesser, and you're like, really? Because it's not, because to us, it's all the same thing. In a normal way, they're Europeans. I don't care. I mean, Russians, you know, the Russians may not be Europeans, but, like, you know what I mean? But I mean, I think like, not just racism, whatever you want to call it, is always especially weird to me when it's among populations that I'm not a member of, so that I can't even understand it. Not understand it, but, like, you know what I mean? Like, I guess in American society, we grew up with racism, so we don't accept it. We don't like it. We understand it in the sense of we know its existence, and we know, oh yeah, people hate each other because of all the years of this and that. Whereas I look at it over there and go, like, come on, you know, how silly. But again, you know, it's just a strange thing. It's a strange thing. Yeah, distinguish themselves from the indigenous. Yeah, but again, it's each society, and it's based on who's the upper class and the underclass, and it could be, you know, crime, and I mean, it's all the same prejudices. Who's eating cats and dogs? Nobody wants to be associated with those people eating cats and dogs, you know, which would be RF Kennedy Jr. Only person in the race who might have eaten a dog is RFK Jr. I'm just saying, he's the only one with a picture. You know, eating the dogs, eating the cats, eating the pets. Puerto Ricans don't like Dominicans, and Dominicans don't like Haitians. It's just a funny, I know, it's a funny thing. Hey, Kay Brown, thanks for joining us. I mean, obviously, like we said, it's almost silly to even say, but because racism is wrong and silly, it just sometimes it's funny to look at it and go, why do you care? I mean, I remember flying over Africa. I was flying to probably Cote d'Ivoire Ivory Coast for work, and was flying from Paris. And it could be a 6-hour flight. It could be more. It was I was shocked at how long the flight was. The strangest part for me was getting over the Sahara Desert, and you're flying over the desert, and I fell asleep, and I woke up, and I mean, maybe I had napped for an hour and a half. We woke up and I was still over the desert. It blew my mind, because I was like, we're still, like, how big is this freaking desert? But it also is weird because when you're that high up and flying for that long over the desert, you're sitting here and going, like, what do countries' boundaries even matter? I mean, I know it's kind of stupid college philosophy stuff, but it is kind of weird when you're that high looking at it, going, like, this whole boundary thing, and, you know, and the insurrection by the, you know, Al Qaeda of North Africa and this kind of crap. You're like, who cares? I mean, they care, and they're all killing each other, but it's weird when you can step back and look, because sometimes it's just kind of like, it just, you kind of shake your head, you know. I mean, we should shake our heads anyway, but it's especially strange when you sort of step back as an outsider, I think. So anyway, all right, we've now had our discussion about racism. All right. Africa is just, to bigger. But I mean, like I said, fly over the Sahara sometime. You will be blown away at how big it is. Again, I think it was 2.5 hours over the Sahara. I think north to south. I think it was that. I thought it'd be maybe an hour, right? I didn't think it was going to be like hours of flying. And also, south is like shorter. I think it's wider than it is tall. I think so. I don't remember. What, longitude versus latitude? Is this latitude versus longitude? Is longitude? I think it's this. I always forget. Is this longitude? I think this is long. Which one is it, guys? Before we hang up, I want a definitive answer. Is this longitude versus latitude? It's the opposite. Is longitude this way? Always confuses me. Well, don't say no. I don't know which one that is, Mike. So you mean no? Thank you, Chip Fisher, for the gift. Latitude is wide. Latitude is lateral. I don't know what any of these words mean. Longitude is north to south. That's what I'm asking. Longitude is up and down. Thank you, Amanda. Speak to me like I'm a child. Longitude is up and down. There we go. I've got to find some way to remember that. Longitude is up and down. Uppy downy. Exactly, Gustav. Thank you. Uppy downy. Well, you know what? I always think, because when I look at the map, I think longitude is longer, I think. So I always remembered it that way. But when I think about it now, I don't quite remember whether on a globe longitude is longer than latitude. You know? Australia, desert for miles. Yeah. I will say that about Australia. I've not been, but I remember looking at the map and looking out west and going, oh my God, like so much of Australia, north, south, east, west looks like it's just desert. Is that the bush or not? Or does the bush actually have more plants and stuff? But I just remember looking at the map and going, Jesus Christ. So get my Australia question and then we'll go. Is it desert, or is it kind of like tundra and plants desert? Or is that the bush, or is the bush a different kind of area? Longitude is east-west. Okay, Jeff is disagreeing with everybody else. So now you're all giving me different answers on what's longitude and what's latitude. All right. I'm checking this. Hang on. My sister's calling me. She must think the show is over, or she's letting me know the show is screwed up somehow. Longitude versus latitude. All right, let's see here. All right. All right. Hang on. Latitude is north. Wait, latitude is a measurement of north or south. So I was right. Longitude is a location east or west of the primary. I was right about you. People lied to me. I was right about this. Longitude is this way, east and west, right? Marie, I'm getting different answers here. You're all disagreeing with each other. Nope, I'm reading this online. Latitude is a measurement of a location north or south of the equator. In contrast, longitude is a measurement of location east or west of the prime meridian, Greenwich. So I am right about this. Yeah. Yeah. All right. All right. Don't mess with me. All right. People are confusing me. You're all confusing me. Oh, no, I was saying longitude. Longitude is what I was saying. Latitude on the map, the lines going up and down. Or actually, yeah. Wait, and see, now we're totally screwed up. All right, longitude is pole to pole. Oh my God, you people are driving me crazy. All right, I'm Googling it somewhere else here. Yeah, latitude are horizontal lines that measure distance north or south. Okay, that doesn't, you know what? That's a stupid description anyway. Lines north or south. You're right. Longitude is up and down. Yeah. You're right. I'm looking at the pictures, and the pictures, this description is the shittiest word description ever. Longitude is up and down. Longitude are the lines going up and down. Yeah, this is what I was saying. Longitude is I was wrong initially. Longitude are the lines going up and down. Latitude are the lines going in a circle like this. See, the problem is the definition is funny when it says measuring the distance makes it sound like it's this way. So right, longitude are these circles. Correct. Longitude lines go up and down. Thank you. That's a perfect way to put it, Diana. All right, Jesus, that was exhausting. That was exhausting. All right, guys, it's 6:30. I'm going to go. Thank you for joining us today, guys. Thank you for your gifts. Thank you, mods. I will, wait, latitude is flatitude left to right. I guess that is flat. You're right. Latitude is flat. That's a good way, because you're right. This is tall. This is flat. I might remember that. Latitude being flat. I will try that. I will try that. All right, guys, have a good night. Today's only Tuesday. I will see you tomorrow, Wednesday, 6 o'clock Eastern time, 5 o'clock Central, U.S. We will talk more about the elections in Ukraine. And I think we're okay now, Marie. You're correct. Everything's copacetic. But again, the descriptions online are very confusing. The way they describe it, we now know, are very confusing. So, all right, guys, have a good night. Yeah, UN story. You'll be waiting for a while. There will be another one someday, Russell. There will be another one. There will be another one. All right, guys. Thank you, YouTube. Have a good night. TikTok, same to you. Have a good night.